Do you want to start catching more bass from the bank but don't know where to start? We're going to talk about that.
Welcome back to another episode of 5-Minute Fish Talk.
Coffee, 5 minutes, you know what that means. Boop, it's time to get real. Today we're talking about bank fishing, and more specifically, breaking down new bodies of water from the bank. My friends, this is an incredibly important subject, and not only that, it really hits home with me, because when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, and I had a car, but I didn't have a boat, and I didn't have a kayak, but I had a strong desire to catch bass and experience new waters, I was pond fishing all the time. And with that, there was a lot of failed missions, and there was a lot of great trips to the lake, but it took a lot of time and it took a lot of trial and error. And what that led to is the fact that I came up with a system that I use when I check out new bodies of water, and this allows me to hone in on more bass. What I wanted to do is share that with you, because to this day I still use that system. I still bank fish quite a bit. I can't always take out the kayak because I just simply don't have time, so I like to bank fish quite a bit. So with that, let's get right into my system. But before we do, I wanted to thank Tyler Danforth for this suggestion. If you ever have a suggestion for a video, just drop a comment below or hit me up on social media. I would appreciate it. Regardless, this system really comes down to three things. Do you fish, are you fishing a lake, are you fishing a pond, or are you fishing a river? Now obviously there's different types of bodies of water out there, but for the most part we can kind of apply these principles across the board. I'm going to start out with rivers, and then I'll work my way into ponds and lakes, and then at the end of this video hopefully you'll have a better idea as to how you can go apply these principles to the different bodies of water around you. So rivers. The one thing with rivers is that it can be really intimidating, right? Because a river might look the same for miles. What I like to do here is spot hop. Now what I mean by spot hop is essentially looking for eddies, looking for rock piles, looking for laydowns in the water, looking for deeper pools, and hitting those spots really, really hard, and then ignoring the stretch of river where it's all kind of the same. And then I'll hit the next spot really, really hard, and the next spot really, really hard. So maybe, for example, maybe I find a dam and I fish it for 10, 20 minutes, and I really fish it really aggressively with the different lures that I think they might eat. And if I don't have any luck, I'll move to the next one. Or maybe I have some luck, but the fish kind of start wearing out, and I move to the next one. And that's how I fish rivers. Because a lot of times, like I said, it can be really intimidating for bank fishermen because you just can't cover the same amount of water. So what I like to really do is spot hop and try to focus on hitting high percentage areas as much as possible. Now ponds is a different story altogether, because a pond a lot of times isn't going to be very large. So for me, what I like to do is I start out by covering water like crazy. I basically just try to fish the entire perimeter of the pond if I can, depending on the size. But then after that, if I've already covered the entire pond and I'm not really having luck anymore, then I really try to pick it apart, and I go back through on a second round and I really try to hit different areas. Now, obviously ponds can vary in size, but for the most part, the principle still applies. Just cover water, because the reality is there's not a lot of structure in ponds, and the fish could really be anywhere. When you're fishing those cover-oriented areas, those can be high percentage areas, so I would definitely spend a little bit more time on the laydowns, the brush piles, etc. But for the most part, cover water. Now, lakes. This is the hardest one, right? Because a lake is a big body of water, and from the bank, you can only cover so much, so much water. So what I like to do, and what I learned over time, because I did this in high school quite a bit, is I really try to hone in on one section of lake. Maybe today I hit this little creek arm, tomorrow I'm going to hit a different creek arm, and what you do by doing that, little by little, section by section, is you'll learn, one, where you might have some luck, but two, you're going to be able to eventually have broken down a good amount of that lake, but it just takes time. So I basically take off one little creek arm, or maybe take off one little cove, and I treat it like a pond, and I go just bust the bank, and I fish it aggressively, and I try to just catch fish in that one specific area. Obviously, I'm trying to apply the principles of what these fish might be doing. Maybe if it's summer, obviously I might be hitting more points. If it's spring, I might be looking more in the back of coves for spawning bass, so on and so forth. But you really just want to hone in on specific areas, and then do a little bit of research and look at the maps to kind of understand what might be the highest percentage areas. Regardless, I know that this is a simple system, but I'm telling you that if you apply it, you will have more luck. It's worked for me, and it will continue to work for me in the future. If you want to see me break down a new body of water from my kayak, now I actually have got that video linked right there, and I tell you what, I use a very similar system to a degree, so I would appreciate if you click there, and we'll see you over there. But you know what I'm going to say next, right? Have yourself a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you next time.